It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me who's.
Welcome back, Bubba Bunch, to another edition of the Bubba Let's Sports podcast. This is now episode 145, and today, I know we're not really like super on top of the uploads of the episodes. Just not a lot going on, but I had to come on here today because of a very controversial topic that I talked about yesterday. And I tweeted about it because it's starting to gain traction now as we go along closer to the NFL season, and especially with what's going on around the United States, around America. I think now is a really good time to talk about it. And the reason why I'm looking down on my phone is because I want to pull up the tweet. The tweet kind of just, put a fire under my topic today, and the reason why I'm doing an episode on this. But before I get into that, we're 79 subscribers into YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening to this Spotify or Apple Podcast, make sure to follow a podcast on all those platforms. Subscribe on YouTube. We're on the road to 100 people, and we're at 79. I appreciate all the views. I appreciate all the support as of late. I mean, the one episode that we did with Mr. Navarro has now gotten over 70 views, which is ridiculous, the most I've ever had on this channel. And the last one I did with Eddie and Kevin is right around 20, which is amazing. So if we continue that, man, like I'm super appreciative of all the support and all the views so far. But we're just gonna continue on, man. We're closing in on 150 episodes, and it's taken a long time to do that. But I promise that we're gonna continue this. Hopefully with sports coming back. Now we gain traction as far as the NBA coming back, the NFL coming back. It looks good so far. I don't like it, and to a certain extent, but we're just going to take it as is, and we're going to enjoy sports, and I hope you join the wagon with me on that journey. So for right now, though, this is what we're going to talk about today, and it's the Washington Redskins. And as of right now, reports say that the Redskins are now looking to basically reevaluate their name after so many years of criticism and of, kind of aggression to change that name. And what I saw yesterday kind of just lit a fire into me of just how we hold some people accountable, but we don't hold everybody accountable. It is a issue for the Washington Redskins to change their name. It has to be done. It's needed to be done for so many years. And yes, I am all for people being kind of aggressive in that sense to like these sponsors, these fans, these NFL fans, or just people in general in our society wanting to push for better, wanting to get a better sense of this topic and make society better, because this is ultimately what we're trying to change around the world is racism, discrimination. And the Washington Redskins have fallen into that topic for so long, yet we just kind of brush it to the side once football season starts. And being a sports fan for my entire life, I'm not the type of person that finds that offensive personally, but I completely understand where people are coming from as far as coming from a Native American culture, being from that background, or just wanting equality and wanting a stereotype in the football world that is still taken in normal everyday life seriously. Like Native American culture is much more than just feathers and tomahawks and spears, and this logo and this perception of the Washington Redskins with their mascot is still a stereotypical matter in that Native American culture. So yes, it is a matter of time before we really take a look and at that logo and at that name and change it. I'm all for that. I'm all for that. I am behind that, and it should have been done a long time ago. And the reason why I'm kind of just really picky about this, I don't want to be negative. I want to be a positive person. I want to look at it glass half full. And the glass half full is we're getting a name change. We're getting a stereotypical name, logo type of a perception of Native Americans out of the picture. And that's phenomenal. I love that. That's where I think of it in a positive way and kind of in a better late than never scenario. And what I mean by better late than never is the negative side of it, the glass half empty. And this is my argument here, is that when we hold people accountable, we're holding the Washington Redskins accountable. It's taken us a long time to do it, and for fuck's sake, it's taken way longer than it should. But how about the other side? How about the NFL? How about the sponsors? The sponsors were the one that came out yesterday and say, if you do not change this name, we are no longer going to sponsor the stadium, your team, the whole organization. And what was it, 2013, where the owner of the Washington Redskins, Dan Snyder, came out and said, we are not changing that name. 7 years ago. 7 years ago, when there's always been that argument of whether or not it should change or not. The kind of protest and the decades of wanting that name change. And yet 7 years ago, only 7 years, Dan Snyder is coming out and saying, no, we're not going to change it. A lot has changed in 7 years. Don't get me wrong. And especially in these last 3 or 4 months, how much has changed there? It's been a lot as well. Yet, this shouldn't have been done now. It should have been done earlier. And here's a tweet that came up. For all of you listening, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read the Bleacher Report tweet, and then I'm going to read my tweet that I quoted from that. And for those of you that are watching, I'm going to put the tweet up on the video. So first up, Bleacher Report tweets, after FedEx asked Washington to change its name, all Redskins merchandise appears to have been removed from the Nike website. There's also another tweet and another report that says that FedEx are pressuring the Washington Redskins to change their name, otherwise they are no longer going to support the sponsor and the name of the stadium, FedEx Stadium, which I'll get to in a moment because there's a really bad history with that. So with that first tweet of the Nike website taking down every single merchandise item of the Washington Redskins, here's what I retweeted and quoted. Listen, I think it's time that we finally have some pressure for change. This name change is bound to happen, as it should. But the name change has been mentioned for years, decades, I should have added. So how come all of a sudden these sponsors want change now? To make themselves look good? And I think a lot of you that are watching and listening to this would agree on that. I've had multiple people tweet me or DM me saying, I'm all for the change. I am all for the name change. And it is the fact that they're wanting to make themselves look good, that they want the money, that they want the perception in the society that they're looking for a symbolistic victory, as one of my followers tweeted. And I appreciate all of those that did. And this is really what's wrong with society, what's wrong with this whole idea of canceling culture, of changing culture, and yet this is not going to really do much. Look, the problem I have with this is that, let's say for instance, Nike. I looked it up. Nike has been sponsoring the NFL for 8 years now. They started in 2012. They took over for Reebok. And they've been the sponsor of the NFL. And much closer to home, they have been the sponsor for the Washington Redskins for 8 years. Up until now, they haven't had a problem with the Washington Redskins name and the organization. They have not mentioned it one time that, hey, this is something that we're sponsoring, but we're not really a fan of, so you need to change your name before we catch fire for it. For 8 years, that has never been the case. FedEx has been the sponsor of the stadium since 1999. That's over 20 years of sponsoring a team with the same name. Even after 2013, when Dan Snyder said, hey, we're not changing the name. Nowhere did you hear FedEx, Nike, or any of the sponsors say, we're behind that. We're not behind that. They're just keep it quiet. So what changes now? What comes down to it as far as wanting that change? Well, when you look at it from a society standpoint. What's going to make you look good? Nike has lost a lot of money in their last quarter due to the fact of the quarantine and everything going on, losing jobs. Not a lot of people are buying their stuff. And then the fact that everything that's going on in the world, you want to make yourself look good. You want to be on the right side of society, even though you've never really picked a side. I'm not outing the Nike, personnel, organization, brand at all as saying they are racist and they're behind racism. It's not what I'm saying at all. Neither will I say that for Fedex. And I'm a small voice doing a podcast in a fucking small room. So it doesn't really matter what I think. But here's the problem with this, is that for 8 years for Nike, for over 20 years for FedEx, they have not had an issue with the Redskins name. But to make themselves look good, to make them look better in society and gain more of a following, yes, it is partly that they want change, that they want a better society, they want a better America. That's great. We all do. And those who are not wanting that will be outed, and they will be punished by society, as they should. And the Redskins should be punished for extending this as long as it has been going on, just for not wanting to change the name, to change that stereotype. That's good too. But what changed from a year ago, 5 years ago, in 2013 when he said that, 8 years ago when Nike sponsored the NFL alongside the Washington Redskins? What changed 21 years ago when FedEx took over the name of the stadium and sponsored the Washington Redskins? Why all of a sudden now? Why now? Yet no one's really talking about that side. Like, are you just going to ignore the fact that they've been okay with that name for so long just because no one's really gained traction on it? No one's really made an effort to want to change? But now that everybody wants equality, now that everybody wants the change and want to see that, symbolized victory come into play, you want to be a part of it. Just to put your name in there. It's like, yeah, we were a part of that. We were a part of the change. You were also part of the problem. And that's what I have a problem with. Great. In a couple days, a couple weeks, we're going to get that change. We're going to get a really cool name for the Washington Red Tails, the Warriors, whatever it is. Red Tails makes a lot of sense due to the history. And it would be a really good thing as far as a symbolized victory for society. It's obviously not going to change much in society, but in football, it will do something. But I don't want to say, or I don't want to hear or see Nike, FedEx saying we did it. We were a part of the change when you were a part of the problem the entire time. You never wanted change until it made you look good. You would have made yourself look a lot better 5-10 years ago if really you just went on your own individually as a brand and said, we're not going to sponsor this anymore. For decades, Native Americans, people that want society to be better, have wanted change of the name. They wanted a better way of looking at a football team. That's not a stereotype. Decades, not just years, that in the media, it's only been really recognized by major sports outlets for a few years, from what I recollect. But this has been going on for years, man, for decades. And I'm glad that we've gotten to this point. Better late than never. That's what I mentioned earlier. Yet, why is it late? Why is it now when it should have been done in the first place with these sponsors? But guess what? With the NFL, and it's going to lead into my next point, it's all about the money, right? It's all about Nike getting their money. It's all about FedEx getting their money. Whether they get it with the Washington Redskins with the name change and they keep their sponsor, cool, they keep the money. Or they gain enough following from fans, from people that don't even like sports, that they follow and they back up Nike. They back up FedEx, which gains, stockholders and more money into the stocks. Great. It makes you look good and you get money no matter what you're doing. Awesome. How about the NFL? How about the NFL having a team with that same name for decades? For decades. Whenever it first showed up, as far as people wanting the change of the name, of the logo, the organization, that has been poorly ran for years, for decades as well. And that's part of the problem too. For the NFL to just stand by and say, we're cool with it. We're not really going to force you to do anything. You just got to figure that out. If you want to change, cool. If not, we're cool with it. Football's starting, so no one's really going to care at the end of the day. People are going to buy jerseys. People are going to buy Redskins merchandise. As long as we get the money at the end of the day, we're cool with it. And it's when we start losing money, that's when the NFL steps in. That's when these sponsors step in. And that is a horrible way to look at it. I'm going to mention one of my followers that was in my DMs last night, and we had a really good conversation. We're still having a good conversation about it. You know, he talked about how like symbolism and just having that perceived in the media is supposed to make us better in this country. That we're supposed to take those little wins and say, awesome, we're here for change, when really the big exploited things that are going out in public and are going on right now in our world are still happening. Nothing's changed. Nothing's really happening as far as wanting to be better. But yet we take these things of like changing a sports team name and say, we did it, guys. That's horrible. That I agree with Darius 100%. That is not a win. You're saying that the war is over, that we've won the war. Yet this is a battle that you can barely call a battle. This was a scuffle that the good side of society won. And yet, right now, even as I'm recording this right now, they're still called the Redskins. So can you even take it as a win? This is barely the first step of what should be going on in the world, especially in our country. So don't think of this as a win on every side of Nike, Fedex, the Washington, whatever they are now, and the NFL. It's not a win. You should learn from this and say, we were losing as a human being, as a humane society for years. And we're barely recognizing that now. Better late than never, but that's not good enough. So that's what I have a problem with, man. And that leads into a lot of other things that are going on. How about the fact that Darius mentioned how they're going to, play the Black National Anthem right before games? Or just the fact that a lot of these players are going to kneel during the national anthem. Or Kaepernick getting traction as far as getting back into the league. There are so many things wrong with those topics, with those subjects. Because once again, they're small little victories, but what does it get us at the end of the day? What does playing the Black National Anthem do? Awesome, right? Like if that helps the players, the coaching staff, the owners, the NFL in general, if that helps a culture and an ethnicity feel better at the end of the day, good. Awesome. I love that. Because we want love. We want positivity to be put out there. We want a good name and a good hearted kind of symbol to help us get through these tough times. But those symbols can't be everything. Those symbols can't, overlap everything that's happened. Kneeling during the national anthem. How can we play a Black National Anthem and kneel during the national anthem when there's still players, there's still owners out there that think that it's about the flag, that it's about the military, that's about respecting America? They are still out there. Most recently, Drew Brees, he's learned from that. Yet it took him this long to realize that. Guarantee you, there are many players, there are many coaching staffs, there are many owners out there that are still thinking stubbornly that this is not about social injustice, police brutality, equality. They don't think of it that way. They just think that, oh, you're disrespecting the American flag and you're disrespecting our country. That is completely wrong. How can we say that that's a win at the end of the day when we play the Black National Anthem, when we kneel during the national anthem, and say, we did it? moral victories. Not the case. Colin Kaepernick, head coach of the Chargers, comes out and says any team would be lucky to have, I'm paraphrasing, any team would be lucky to have Colin Kaepernick on their roster. He should be on a roster. He fits to what we're doing in Los Angeles. And, he would actually be a really good fit here. That was it. Didn't gain any interest from the Chargers. They didn't want to sign him. They didn't even work him out. Pete Carroll actually worked him out a couple years ago and said, man, he's really good. And even now he's like, any team would be lucky to have him on the roster. He's a really talented quarterback. He should be in the NFL. Where is he? Not in Seattle. So good for you, Pete. Good for you, Anthony. You guys are giving him a little push. You're the wingman. Awesome. Colin Kaepernick still doesn't have a job. There's quarterbacks like Nate Sudfeld, Nathan Peterman. There's still quarterbacks like, Ryan Fitzpatrick that are, Case Keenum, that I would say Colin Kaepernick is better than, yet they get the money. They get the jobs. Roger Dale coming out and said, finally, Colin Kaepernick is getting interest around the league. He should be in the NFL. Yet, you're one of the reasons why he got blackballed for so many years. The one quote that I remember Colin Kaepernick saying, and he's done some bad things too. He has done some things to really hurt his NFL career. Now I'm not talking about the kneeling, because he did that correctly. He did that the right way. And he's done a lot of great things for his culture, for his people, and for society. For America in general. I'm talking about being late to workouts, changing them right before they happen, canceling workouts, and saying that he deserves $20 million a year. Look, I don't know if Colin Kaepernick deserves $20 million a year, but he doesn't deserve to be on the bench. He should be a starting quarterback somewhere. And that's where he'll get that money. Ryan Tannehill can make $30 million a year. Colin Kaepernick can make $20 million a year. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, it doesn't happen, right? So when Colin Kaepernick does that workout and looks great to a lot of people, he says, I've been ready for 3 years. I've been denied for 3 years. He has gone to court for blackballing, or the NFL blackballing him. For many teams saying, we're not going to take you because you're going to be a distraction. You're just going to kneel. We don't care what you do on the field. You can't do that. You're going to make us look bad. You're going to make the NFL look bad. So for 3 years, Roger Goodell didn't give a crap about Colin Kaepernick. He didn't care where he was. He's like, you do you. You can kneel all you want, but don't do it on an NFL field. Jerry Jones said, my players won't kneel, because that's disrespectful to the flag. Jerry, your roster is predominantly white, or predominantly black. How do you have a say as an old white man who some reporters, some opinions are saying that you have a slave owner mentality? And I'm not agreeing with that. I'm not saying that's what it is. But when you tell black players what to do, and you say, if you don't go by my rules, you're out of here. Kind of a historical, reflection of what happened in the past. And that's exactly what happened in the NFL with Colin Kaepernick. And now we're starting to see Colin Kaepernick gain a chance to be an NFL quarterback. You get these head coaches that are saying, hey, he'd be great on an NFL team. I'd love to see him back in the NFL. And no one's really doing it. No one's really wanting to take that chance. Yet they're wanting Nathan Peterman to be on the roster. Oakland signed Marcus Mariota. And it looks like they're trying to go away from Derek Carr. That's what I think. Why would you sign Marcus Mariota if you're okay with Derek Carr as your franchise quarterback? You're not. Yet Colin Kaepernick would really fit well in Oakland. He'd fit really well in Seattle. Even just as a backup, he'd fit extremely well in an offense like the Los Angeles Chargers. Yet you're not hearing a goddamn word about interest in Colin Kaepernick. Yet we take those wins, we take those small little snippets of head coaches saying, we'd like him to be in the NFL. Cool. Awesome. You made yourself look good. But guess what? No one's wanting to take that chance on Colin Kaepernick. They don't look at the player. They're not looking at the player. They're looking at the distraction that he could be on the field. Then at that point, there's no change. There has not been any change going on. So how can we hold some people accountable, but not everybody? I'll hold Colin Kaepernick accountable for some of the things he's done as far as choices go to help his NFL career, because he's done some things wrong. But by no means should he be punished to the point to where he doesn't play the game he loves. He wants to play in the NFL. He wants to play at a high level. Yeah, he's not given the opportunity. And guess what? In black culture, around any department, around any major role or whatever they want to do in life, that's the problem. They're not given that opportunity. Whether they're actors, actresses, the chefs, athletes, whatever it is, you're not given that opportunity because of the color of your skin. And if you have a voice, we just don't want to hear it. So people, how can we move on from this? How can we move on when we're not even figuring out the things that are needing to change? We still got to figure out the name change. We still got to figure out sponsors taking accountability for themselves. Players, owners, whatever the case may be. How can we move on from this, yet we haven't learned a goddamn thing? No one's learned from this. We're just going to get a name change and then we're back to normal. That's not the case. And for the people that have DM'd me, I want to use this platform to give you a voice. And racism, discrimination, inequality is still happening right now as we speak. We just see it on that level of athletes and in professional sports because that's where the media is going to focus on. They want that headline. They want that attention. Yet that's not what it's about. It's about change. It's about wanting better for our society, wanting better for everyone. So don't tell me that Nike and Fedex did the right thing. They've done the wrong thing for so many years and they finally realize, like, hey, if we want to get more money, let's do this. That's sad. And it should not be taken as a win. I mean, I don't know what else to say, right? Like, what is this going to do? I'm just a small voice, right? But I want to just voice my opinion because I think it's just awful. And I think it's just ridiculous that we consider this wins, that we consider these small little things that should have already been done wins. When really the win is equality. Really the win that we want is not less discrimination, no discrimination. We want those to be what we take from this era, that we take from this point in our lives. I'm not taking the Redskins name change as equality, as non-discriminating. I'm taking this as just finally, like, it's about damn time. But there's still a lot more room to grow. There's a lot of things to change, and that's should have been done years ago. And it's horrible that all these sponsors just got away with it for so long. That the organization of the Redskins got away with it for so long. The NFL did for so long. Yet, this is just the first step in an endless climb that we may not reach as a society because there's so many voices that are bigger than mine, that are louder than mine, that will always get more attention than mine, that say we're better off now than we were yesterday. Technically, yes, we are, but we shouldn't think that way. We should think we haven't changed enough, that we haven't done enough. So take it as it is. We'll see what next week, if that name change will happen, see what it is. But for now, what do you do? What do you take it as? I don't take it as a win, and neither should you. Neither should you. But I don't know. I don't know where to go with it. I just think that I just want to express my opinion to the point where I don't feel like anything has been better when it comes to the NFL, professional sports, and in our culture. Nothing's really changed. There's still murdering happening, discrimination happening, racism happening on a daily basis. And we seem to forget that every other day. We seem to forget that on a daily basis. And I'm sorry, I'm one of those people. And it's hard to really look yourself in the mirror and say, what are you doing, or are you not doing enough? And I hope that this, at least, I'm not saying that I'm the greatest person, I'm the greatest spokesperson for this change, but I hope that if you watch this or listen to this, that you take it and you do something about it with this information. And I hope that I help your perception of what's going on around sports and in today's world. So I appreciate you guys listening and watching me. Thank you so much for getting on the Bubba Let's Sports podcast with me, being a part of the Bubba Bunch. This has been episode 145 of the podcast. Now, we'll see what happens next week. Closing in on the NBA coming back. All these COVID cases keep coming up. Fight Island is happening next week. So I do want to talk about that. I've been huge on UFC for these last few months. And boy, has it been fun to watch. I mean, if you say, like, oh, I miss sports, dude, I guarantee you, if you watch UFC, there are storylines, there are personalities, characters that may not be to the extent of Conor McGregor. I was going to say Conor McGregor. They may not be up to that scale, but damn, is it entertaining to watch. And if you're going to have an octagon in the middle of a fucking island, just out in the wild, I'm fucking down. I'm excited. You know, hey, we might even do a live stream for that. Just going to throw that out there. I want to do a live stream again. I mean, I think that we would have a lot of fun together if we had another live stream. So let me know what you think about that. Once again, we're continuing this podcast, and I hope to have many more guests, you know, some returning guests and some new ones in the future. Now that we're kind of opening up everything right now, even though it shouldn't, but that's for another day. So, you know, stay with us, stay with me, be a part of that Bubba Bunch. And thank you so much for all the support and love, guys. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time on the Bubba Let's Sports podcast.
Yeah, hold on. Tell me who's your top 5 quarterbacks right now, dead or alive, huh? And how much do you